Hello everyone, this is part 15 of What If Naruto Got Rid of the Kyuubi, and I hope you guys enjoy this video and to like, to subscribe, to share, and check out the playlist, to see more comment down below. Now let's start the intro.
They call me a god. They call me a god. They call me a god.
Join my membership, the perks are great. It's in the description. Be sure to like and subscribe, it gives me more motivation. Enjoy. In the words of a great man, the more things change, the more they stay the same. That is exactly how Naruto felt at this moment. It had been nearly 4 months since the people of Suna first arrived in Konoha, and boy was it an exciting ride. The first thing that happened upon return was the Hyugas storming to their compound, and let's just say by the 10 boss that were on the fence that afternoon the council of the Hyuga family were no more. Flashback. As the group walked through the gates to the village with the Anbu, who received word of a large group heading toward Konoha and discovered the Hokage leading them toward the village. Hiash stopped and said, "Forgive me Hokage-sama for not helping escort our guest any longer, but my clan has an important matter to deal with." The Hokage said, "Of course Hiash, please don't be too messy." Hiash said, "No promises," as he led the group toward the Hyuga compound. As they arrived, Hiash said, "Branch members, spread word and have them move out in 10 minutes and wait until I summon you to the council chambers and say to attack." Each of them bowed, and Hiash turned to his children and said, "Go with Neji and be safe. This will be over shortly." Hinata nods to her father and grabs her sister's hand, leading her toward where Neji was, and Hiash turns and walks toward the Hyuga council chambers. As he arrived, he opened the door and said, "I don't know what you were all talking about currently, but an important event has happened and you must be notified." A council member asked, "What is it, Hiash, that needs to be brought before the Hyuga council?" Hiash said, "Several things actually." As he walked over and took his seat, he continued saying, "First off, Suna has been destroyed, making everyone wide-eyed." A council member asked, "What? How did this happen?" Hiash said, "Rain attack, but luckily all the attackers are believed to be S. Only a few people from Suna were harmed and are currently seeking shelter here in Konoha." A council member said, "We must up security. We can't risk some low-life trash to get in here." Hiash activated his eyes, seeing the branch members outside the door, said, "I can't agree more. That is why I have told the branch family to come here to get orders, and they are outside the door now. You may come in now." The door opened and nearly 75 branch members walked in and circled around the room. Hiash stood up and said, "There was one other thing that was discovered while we were in Suna before it was destroyed, you should know. The Raikage let it slip about the truth about my brother's death and daughter's caping, them, and before the council members had a chance to say anything, they were immediately grabbed and had several members juking the hell out of them, destroying each of the chakra holes instead of just closing them off." Hiash said, "Good, now put those boss on the front fence, showing we are no longer going to suffer from the atrocities of a corrupt council, and I am going to request Namikaze-san to see if he can find a way to secure our bloodline while removing that accursed seal. The time of two houses needs to come to an end." The branch members looked at each other and said, "Yes, Hiashi-sama. It's an honor to serve you," as they dragged the boss out, taking a few extra shots just to be sure, though by the blood coming out of their mouths it was a safe bet they were S. End flashback. The second thing that happened was the little remodeling of the Konoha council. All civilians were instantly removed, leaving only the clan heads. Flashback. The Hokage walked into the council chambers with Gaara and Kushina beside him and said, "May I have your attention? As you have heard about Suna by now, I am here to notify you all that as of this moment Konoha is currently under the direction of 3 Kages. As such, I have decided it is time to take care of all this trouble with the council that Danzo helped orchestrate. As of this moment all civilians are hereby removed from this council." A civilian said, "But Hokage-sama, you can't do that." The Hokage said, "I can and have. You seem to forget that the council is nothing but an aid to me. For too long have I let your little power-hungry asses make me look like a fool, and that time is over. Seeing as all the council members but the clan heads are all civilians, get the hell out of this building now." A civilian said, "Over my body." Gaara said, "May I, Hokage-san?" The Hokage looked at the member and knew he was one of Danzo's specific lackeys that refused to quit and was trying to regroup root from the report he had read from Ibiki, and said, "Please Kazekage-san." Gaara smiled and stuck out his hand, and sand shot out and covered him as he said, "Desert coffin," and he squeezed his hand while saying, "Desert funeral," and the council member's body exploded, sending blood all over the other council members that were running for their lives. After they were all gone, Kushina said, "Now I see why you asked all the clan heads not to come to this meeting. I must say I like how you and the Gaara handle them, Sarutobi." Gaara smiled and said, "Who said you needed to listen to an insomniatic demon who loves to have a bloodbath," getting a chuckle from both cages. End flashback. The civilians of Konoha had a real amusing moment when they saw the Yondaime and he was asked if he was returning as the Hokage and the Kyuubi brat. His answer was sweet. Flashback. The civilians saw the Minato and said, "So Yondaime-sama, are you going to retake your position and remove that old fool Sarutobi who protected the Kyuubi brat and remove that menace from our village once and for all?" "Of course you are, why else would you come back from the S? How did you do that, sir?" Minato looked at the man and said as he unleashed a massive amount of ki, "First, I am not now, or will I be the Hokage of the village of Konoha ever again. You miserable little Sheeds TD and abused my son for saving your life. I have half the mind to summon the Shinigami right now, Agent, and have him devour your soul for the rest of eternity. If I ever hear of you ever trying anything to my son or his family, I will not only kill you but your friends, family, pets, neighbors, and their family, friends, and pets while playing kickball with your nuts. That is if there is anything left of you after my son gets done with you. You may not realize it, but he killed nearly 200 rain ninjas, all ranking from Junin on down recently, while helping save the people of Suna. He is also now the Judium Raisenkage of Whirlpool, who is also Konoha ally, so basically if you touch him or his family you are declaring war on Whirlpool, and believe me, neither my wife, the Kyuubi Raisenkage, his future brother-in-law, the Godime Kazekage, or myself and nearly all the people of Suna ready to back him, so please give me a reason to introduce you to why I am an SS rank ninja in the bingo book. As for how, go F yourself," as he disappeared and reappeared behind the man holding a kunai at the guy's end. The poor civilian pissed his pants and ran off screaming, while Minato laughed as he walked away, doing a good impersonation of Orochimaru when he sees Sasuke during the Chunin exam, scarring the S out of a few people. End flashback. Of course not all things were great like that. With so many open seats on the council now, the 3 cages allowed the Suna council that was made up ninja already to fill in for those that recently were vacated, making it 9 clans from Konoha, 9 from Suna and 1 from Whirlpool. The Namikaze clan. Minato was not joking when he declared he would never be a Konoha Hokage agent and took up the clan seat while his wife ran things as the Raisenkage. He took up the forehead protector of Whirlpool, and everyone decided to have Naruto stay as the next Raisenkage, but also make it where he would not have any official power unless on the battlefield until he was older. There were a few things that came about as a big change after the destruction of Suna. It turned out that blast that Gaara triggered by destroying the warehouse that housed all of Suna gunpowder they use for fireworks and sealess bombs. It turned out that there were only 10 other villages in the Wind Country, and since each of them were dependent of Suna to survive, they had to relocate, and taking a page out of the people of Suna book, most came to Konoha. The Wind Lord, who happened to have been one of the VIP that was in Suna during the exams, saw the way the people of Konoha, Suna and Whirlpool acted, and the moment they arrived in Konoha he immediately sought out the Fire Lord, and after some debate they came to a decision. Instead of starting 2 new villages, they would support the improvement of one while uniting their 2 countries, permanently extending the Fire and Wind Country to one border and renaming it the Flaming Wind Country. Because of this they met with the leaders of all 3 villages, telling them, that's right, not asking but telling them that as of now they are one village, and they decided to redesign the forehead protectors. The new one has all 3 symbols, with the hourglass for Suna on the left, the leaf for Konoha in the middle, and the spiral for Whirlpool on the right. It helped in the fact the Wind Lord was tired of the desert and had purposely been bankrupting Suna so he could eventually destroy the village and move to a new place, and what better place than Konoha. Speaking of Whirlpool, thanks to the destruction of Suna, a surprising event happened. It turned out that when the other villages in Wind had to close since they could not support themselves any longer and they relocated to Konoha, that in them were several people from Whirlpool. When they heard about Kushina being alive and that her and her successor were restarting, they immediately went out to search for her, giving Whirlpool more ground to stand on instead of feeling like an honorary member. With the 111 Whirlpool ninja, 170 Suna shinobi and the 300 Konoha shinobi, it made it seem as if 3 villages actually were forming a stronger village. Now the problem with having around 900 people arrive in Konoha, which had a population before this of around 1500, was that there was not enough immediate room for them. The clans of Konoha helped give temporary help, as also the hotels, thanks to being rented out by the cages and the academy being temporarily close. A few rooms in the hospital and what few places that were vacant before this. Some ninja who had no family roomed together in the tower at the Forest of Death, and still people had to have tents and other shelters. This problem was mostly taken care of with a lot of help from Naruto and his army of Kyuubi, Gaara and his sand ability, Yamato and his wood ability, and the general labor force of nearly everyone in the village. They built around 15, 2-bedroom 1-bath homes a day from wood that Yamato regrew every day so they would not actually deplete the woods around Konoha, and Gaara used his sand to crush and mix the ground and made them concrete floors. The next problem was food. Sure, Konoha had a small surplus in case of a food shortage, but nothing could have prepared them for this. Luckily, thanks to a little boy and his special ability, it was not much of a problem. When the Hokage first heard about Arashi's ability to use the Shodime's bloodline, he inquired about it on the way to Konoha. It turned out that both Naruto and Kurenai are the same blood type, and Tsunade, being one of the only ones who knew of their marriage and did all of their medical problems. Even when Sakura did something, Tsunade double-checked it secretly, and she had on several occasions gave both of them her own blood since she was the same type. Between that and the time Kurenai had to have blood from an enemy attack right before she went on maternity leave, and receiving blood from Tsunade agent for that there was enough dormant bloodline cells in their body to become active in Arashi. Tsunade never activated her grandfather's bloodline, but she carries it. The Hokage decided even though the academy was out, he could use them for some D-rank training, and the Kazekage agreed to have his academy students also help, so they would have the academy students plant fruit and vegetable seeds for some of the farms inside the village walls, and had Arashi use his bloodline to make them grow faster. Yamato also helped since Arashi did not have enough chakra to do an entire farm every day, but it freed Yamato enough to help elsewhere while helping Arashi learn more about his bloodline. He only knows 2 things though. Growth and Rosewhip. Both were tricks his grandmother, Tsunade, had him learn from the Forbidden Scroll, secretly of course, and Growth helped make seed grow quickly. What also helped was some of the villages in Suna that came also brought their livestock, what little bits they could keep alive in a desert, and luckily Konoha village walls in some places went up to 1 mile into the woods away from the village, and also some grazing lands that nobody had settled on yet. A few fences and a lot of hard work, and those lands became dairy, chicken, and other livestock farms. Of course the camel farm was a little ridiculous, but hey, it's just as good as a horse at pulling a plow and can go longer without not Kami if that is not right. I heard a friend mention that once and decided to use it. Now fresh water was another problem, but thanks to Kushina and Naruto using their water manipulation, that helped to bring a few underground rivers to the surfaces, as well as making a few extra hot springs, and fishing ponds that thanks to the fish hatchery made it where soon they would also have more fish to eat in a few months. Yes, Naruto activated his second bloodline. Flashback. Naruto was resting when Kushina walked up to him and said, "How you doing, son?" Naruto sighed and said, "Okay, I guess. We got about 1 out of 4 of the houses needed done, but we still have a lot of work. I feel bad that most of these houses are basically the same, but we need them before winter arrives." Kushina nods and said, "It's about time to awaken your second bloodline, son. I know you wanted to wait until you were able to find your cousin, but we need its help soon since water is going to be a problem and I can't do it alone," as she pulls out a scroll. Naruto stands up as she wipes her blood on it, and he does the same, and the seals on it break, opening the scroll, and out pops a sword with a dragon on it, and Kushina said, "This is the Uzumaki family sword. Each heir has one and they give it to each of their heirs. Since Kakashi has agreed to let me keep his father's sword and my bloodline is already active, I want you to have this. Arashi is still too young and not strong enough to awaken it. He will have to wait until the dragon you gave him can aid him in battle and be at least Chunin in strength." Naruto looked at the sword and saw that it was solid black except the eyes of the dragon that was gold, as well as the 2 fangs in its open mouth, and Kushina said, "To awaken the bloodline you will have to pull the sword from the sheath. Until the sword recognizes you as the rightful heir and an Uzumaki, it will not remove. You only get 1 chance to do this and the sword will attack you, but I am not allowed to tell you how. You must hold on to the sword until it is completely removed. If you don't, your bloodline won't become active. Are you ready or do you want to wait?" Like I said, you only get one chance and one chance only. Naruto said, I'm ready, I want back down. Kushina nods and said, good luck son, as she holds the sword out to him. Naruto grabs the handle and tries to pull it out when the eyes of the dragon on his arm and the one on the handle glow and they both become covered in chakra as chakra manifestations of themselves appear and both bite onto Naruto's hand making him wince. Kushina sees this and said, hold on son. Naruto's hand has blood running out of it onto the ground from the 4 fang marks and soon a third dragon heads appear rising from the blood on the ground and shoots up the one on his arm and the one on the ground both attack the one on the handle and it quickly retreats before its eyes quits glowing and the sheath comes flying off causing Naruto to dislocate his shoulder because Naruto had been pulling extra hard. He screams out and drops the sword and sheath but luckily Kushina caught it as Naruto grabs his shoulder and walks over to a tree and resets it back into location. After waiting for his healing to catch up he walks back over and his mother hands him both parts and said, once you put both pieces together your bloodline will be awakened. Naruto puts them together and he suddenly feels lightheaded as he starts to fall back only for a chair made out of water to catch him and he blinks looking back and quickly stands up and sees the chair fall apart and seep back into the ground and said, cool. End flashback. With the help of Gaara and Yamato the village walls also got more fortified by their combined work. The forest was also moved back 300 yards so that if anyone approached the walls the people in the new and old guard towers would be able to see them in advance before they made it to the walls. Another thing that came about during this time thanks to the move of Rain and Suna was that because of the loss of nearly their entire ninja population Rain was quickly captured by a joint force of Iwa and Cloud. Because of this Akatsuki disappeared. Naruto and the ones who knew of them and their motives knew they had not SD in the blast and would not stop their efforts but with the results of what happened their plans had to be changed. As for those who thought Cloud and Iwa would attack Konoha with their allies being heard stories about the Yondaime returning to life and the fact that Naruto took out a good portion of the Rain Ninja himself as well as his supposed destruction of the Nibi they decided to hold off and prepare at the moment Konoha would be weakened from having so many people in Konoha from Suna. Funny how those problems were able to be solved ruining that plan. Another thing that came about was Naruto got an idea after talking with some of the older Suna and Whirlpool ninjas that had retired from active duty. They had vast knowledge of fighting styles, ninjutsu, kenjutsu, genjutsu, kinjutsu, fuinjutsu, sealing, and medical jutsu that was going to waste. Being the better businessman he has decided to buy that knowledge. He then had the info he bought turned over to the cages and endeavored it up to proper rank and decide which ones should be given back out to aid the ninja of the 3 villages. As for the bet with the rakeage, since Suna was destroyed and not wanting to pick a fight while they were weakened Naruto forgot it, not really caring for the thing anyways but hey, bragging rights might be worth something. As for Naruto family life, he and Gaara turned the house he was making into a big mansion. When I say big I mean it has enough space to fit the entire Hyuga clan. It was that big. Mostly everyone just took one section of the compound. It was divided into 5 floors not counting the basement with 20 rooms in each floor. The top floor was given to Kushina and Minato. The next floor was given to Naruto, Kurenai, Temari, and Arashi, the floor below that was Gaara, then the next was Kankuro. Why you ask would they build such a large compound is simple. A little joke from Kankuro made that decision easy. Flashback. Everyone was sitting at the table eating and talking about what projects were to be made while they talked about how to improve the house Naruto had built. So far Kurenai moved out of her apartment and Gaara and Kankuro moved into it. Temari and Kurenai shared a room, Naruto and Arashi shared a room, and Minato and Kushina shared a room but that was since space was limited. They still ate together and planned to stay together. Naruto was eating when Kankuro said, so Naruto, who do you think Arashi should date? I mean from what you told the Hokage Tsunade said that her bloodline in him was good enough to pass on to possible heirs since he was born with it. Naruto scratched his head and asked, what do you mean girls? I thought the whole idea of me having 2 wives was to make it where we could have several kids to make sure our family don't s out. Kushina shook her head and said, sometimes you're too dense son. What he means is Arashi bloodline is different than our. He has our healing and will get the water one but he also has the wood manipulation ability which none of us don't. Yamato can't pass his on either so that means that he will have to have a harem. Naruto scratched his head and said, I guess that makes sense, but it's his decision. I won't dictate his life. Arashi said, you know him right here, right? Naruto said, I know, that's why I said it's your decision. I don't want you to feel pressure into something you can't live with. Kankuro smirked and looked at Kushina and said, so, do you have plans for any more little devils to run around? Making Minato spit out the sake he was taking a sip of, and Kushina blinked and said, you know, I never thought of that. I wonder. Naruto said, you mean I could have brothers or sisters? Arashi said, that's going to be weird. Having an aunt or uncle younger than me. It's bad enough I feel like the women and men I called uncles and aunts are now almost my age. Of course the fact I know what they look like when they get older will help when I decide to start my clan, as a small amount of blood ran down his face. Naruto slams his head into the table and said, God, I wish I could K Konohamaru for giving him Ica Paradise for research, but he does not even know what he would S for. Gaara said, well, one thing's for sure, the way all the women are looking at him as well as your mother and your fiancés looking at their respective mates, I say there will be around 50 kids running around this place in the next 25 years. Most being from my sister, as he left in a swirl of sand as a plate of food and several other objects came flying in the spot he just was at. Arashi said, Dad, Grandpa Erozanen asked me if I wanted to help him with research tomorrow, can I? Kurenai narrowed her eyes and said, listen here little boy, I brought you into this world and I can take you out. If you try anything perverted and I find out about it, I will castrate you. Do I make myself clear? Arashi Saratobi Namikaze. Naruto looked at his mom and said, you just had to teach them that speech, didn't you? Kushina smiled and said, well, in full, let's go to our room Minato, I want to seal if you are still as good at sealing as you used to be. Naruto asked, why would you need a seal in the bedroom? Kushina said, oh, so we don't wake you up when we move the room around, as she grabbed Minato's hand leading him away. Naruto blinked and yelled, don't give me a reason to build the upgrades to this house too soon, you damn perverts. Kurenai looked at Temari and both said, and when do we get to move the furniture Naruto? Naruto looked sheepish and said, remember, we're still too young. Kurenai said, old enough to K. Temari said, old enough to move furniture. Arashi said, why do you want to change the furniture around? I finally figured out where everything is in this house. Naruto blinked and said, it's nothing son, just your mother's teasing me. Kankuro said, or are they? As he was suddenly hit by a plate and his face broke apart showing his puppet that got up and walked away, and Arashi asked, when did he change places? Everyone shrugged and started to clean up the mess. End flashback. Well, that was the general way things went during the 4 months, and now Naruto stood in front of the cages with Minato, Itachi and his girlfriend Yugito, and the Hokage said, Naruto, the village is in good enough hands to spare you now, so I want you to continue the mission we briefly discussed before Suna was destroyed. Track down the last Uzumaki. Itachi asked, what about the other mission? The Hokage said, since Akatsuki have gone into hiding, you will have to wait for them to pop up again before we can do anything about it. Now I want you to leave today and hurry back. All four said, yes sir, as they started to leave. That will be all for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment down below for more videos. Goodbye.